is Delta Sierra Juliet. Is there any known traffic below 5,000 feet?
No known traffic.
Seems to be a large aircraft.
On the evening of the 21st of October 1978, a young Australian pilot, Frederick Valentich, disappeared while on a training flight in a Cessna 182L over the Bass Strait off the coast of Melbourne, Australia. In the moments before he lost contact with Melbourne Air Traffic Control, an increasingly panicked Valentich reported that he was being buzzed by strange lights and a strange craft, which he described as, quote, not an aircraft. Shortly after also reporting that his plane was experiencing mechanical difficulty, communication was abruptly lost and he was never heard from again. The story caused a sensation and led many to claim that he had been abducted or taken down by aliens. So what really happened that mysterious night? The 20-year-old Valentich took off for King Island, part of the Australian state of Tasmania. His motivation for the flight was unclear. He had told two different stories, that he was going to pick up friends, and that he was going to pick up crayfish, both of which were untrue. At 7:06 p.m, he contacted Melbourne to inform them that he was being followed by an aircraft at 4,500 feet, only to be told that there was no known traffic there. Valentich then reported that an unknown craft, illuminated by 4 bright landing lights, had passed 1,000 feet above him at high speed. The craft then approached him from the east and began orbiting above him. He further reported that the object had a shiny metal surface with a green light. It was at this point that he also informed ATC that he was having engine problems. His controller then heard what were described as, quote, metallic scraping sounds, and contact was lost. An air and sea search commenced involving vessels in the area, an Air Force Lockheed, and 8 civilian aircraft, but no trace of Valentich was ever found. The Australian Department of Transport investigated the incident, failing to determine a cause. They did conclude that it was likely fatal to Valentich. 5 years after the disappearance, an engine flap was found washed ashore on Flinders Island. The part was from a Cessna 182, and its part number was within a range that could have come from Valentich's aircraft. The UFO dimension to the mystery gave it worldwide publicity, prompting a number of fascinating theories. What was the evidence for an alien encounter or abduction? Proponents of that theory point to multiple reports from local people of an erratically moving green light in the sky that evening, which tallies with what Valentich described to air traffic controllers. However, reports of these sightings largely appeared after the incident, inviting skepticism. An amateur photographer out taking pictures that day near Cape Otway Lighthouse, Roy Manifold, captured an unidentified object in one of his pictures. Ground Saucer Watch, an Arizona-based group of ufologists, concluded that it showed a flying object. Others were not so sure, pointing to the possibility of dust or an insect on or near the camera lens. Examination of the photo has proved inconclusive either way. There are credible theories which point to a more human tragedy. Valentich's piloting career had been a checkered one. Though he had 150 hours of flight time and held a Class 4 instrumentation rating, allowing him to fly at night, he had failed a number of commercial pilot exams and had been involved in flying incidents. Warned for entering restricted airspace in Sydney, Valentich was, at the time, being investigated for deliberately flying into clouds, with prosecution being considered. This gave rise to the theory that he had become disorientated that night and was flying upside down. The eerie lights that he had seen would have been the lights of his own aircraft, reflected by the water below. In this scenario, however, the Cessna's gravity-operated fuel system would have cut out in very short order. A 2013 examination of the incident by retired U.S. Air Force pilot James McGaha and author Joe Nickell proposed that Valentich was deceived by the illusion of a tilted horizon, one of the many mind tricks that can happen in aviation. Attempting to compensate unnecessarily, the plane would have entered a spiral dive, giving the pilot a further illusion that he was being orbited by lights. What he would have been seeing were either planets or stars in the night sky, or lights of civilization on nearby islands. This spiral would also explain the rough engine noises just before contact was lost. Yet more theories posit that Valentich staged his own disappearance by reporting a flight plan to King Island, then going on somewhere else. It has been revealed that the aircraft was not plotted on radar, and police investigators received word that an unscheduled landing of a light aircraft in a different area had taken place around the time of his disappearance. But why would the young pilot want to disappear? Would the threat of prosecution for a flying offence be enough to prompt such drastic action? And why hasn't he reappeared or been unmasked, given the huge publicity surrounding the case and the passage of time? This led others to conclude that Valentich had committed suicide and gone out in a blaze of glory with the sensational claim that he was being stalked by an alien craft. Relatives and friends insisted that he was not a likely candidate for suicide, although this is a common refrain in cases of people taking their own lives. Valentich's father did also confirm that his son believed completely in UFOs and had been worried about being attacked by one whilst in flight. In the end, this tragic loss of a young life is likely a case of a fatal pilot error. But the chilling possibility, no matter how small, that Frederick Valentich, alone over the ocean in a small plane, was abducted by aliens, has kept this fascinating mystery alive. One can only hope, for his sake, that it was pilot error, and not a far more frightening alternative.